Ever been told to move so someone more important could have your spot? Like your comfort was just a clerical error they could fix with a smile, like your ticket didn't mean a thing. Yeah, that happened. And the way I answered it made an entire airline feel the price of one seat. It was a quiet Wednesday at DFW, late lights slanting across the polished floor. And I was just a guy in a navy blazer and jeans who'd finally exhaled after a brutal week. Nothing flashy, nothing loud. Sliding into one, because I've learned to love the predictability of small things when the big ones never slow down. No entourage, no assistant. Just a slim carry-on and a leather briefcase. The kind of traveler people glance at and then look past, you know what I mean? I had a bourbon in mind and silence in my bones when the flight attendant stopped at my row with that careful, tiptoed tone that already tells you the answer isn't no. It's not yet. Mr. Hale, we need a favor. There's been a mix-up and someone else is meant to be in this seat. I looked at my boarding pass, then at her. Then at the young guy posted near the galley with his sunglasses pushed up and a smirk like life always rotates to face him. And I said in a steady voice, I'm in the seat my ticket says I'm in. She nodded like she understood, like we were co-conspirators in a problem she had to solve. And then she said the quiet part out loud. He's one of our VIPs. There it was, not a mix-up. A pecking order dressed like procedure. I don't make scenes, I make decisions. But some moments spin the dial on you. The woman across the aisle, white hair slicked back in a tidy knot, looked over her glasses and said in that teacher on the first day cadence, he's already seated, isn't he? The attendant didn't answer her. She kept her eyes on me. Offered 3C like it was pretty much the same thing. And the kid in the blue button-down did that little chin raise people do when they're used to yes. Nothing personal, he said softly. Like he was sparing me. Nothing personal is a funny phrase. It only shows up when someone plans to take something that's yours. I said I'd stay where I was. Calm, no heat. A hand resting on the armrest like it always belonged there. They tried again. A taller attendant with the clipped tone of a hallway principal. Then a ground supervisor with a badge that caught the light, and a smile you could iron shirts on. He raised his voice just enough for first class to hear. Sir. Refusing crew instructions can mean removal from the aircraft. And I thought, of course, this is how you do it. You make the target the disruption. The lady across the aisle shook her head. Another guy 2 rows back pointed at his ticket like it was holy writ, and my pulse stayed slow because I knew this wasn't about a seat. It was about my spine. I said, real level, no? We can delay. We can talk. I can sit quietly, but I'm not moving. They backed off, not because they wanted to, because the air got heavy and the performance wasn't playing well. We pushed back. We climbed. The city lit up like sequins on a black coat, and I stared at wing light and cloud while the kid in blue pretended his phone was more interesting than me. Let me back up a sec. For 20 years I've been the person people mistake for the assistant before they realize I signed the wires. I built Hale systems from a soda-stained laptop and 1,002 A.M. fixes into a company that keeps planes on time and crews on shift for more carriers than I can list on one hand. And one of those carriers, the one painted on the fuselage I was riding that night, relied on us for scheduling, maintenance logs, crew rotations, the little invisible code that turns a metal tube into a promise. We landed in San Diego under a purple strip of sunset. And the woman across the aisle gave me a polite nod like a judge satisfied the record was clear, and the kid in blue kept his face turned so hard he could have sprained it. I went home, poured water, scrolled past wins my team would normally celebrate, and felt that quiet burn that doesn't shout. It writes lists. By midnight I'd called Jenna, my COO. Told her I wanted every line of our contract with Pacific Beacon Airways on the table at 8 a.m. Terms, renewal windows, support tiers, all of it. No drama, just facts. We met in the glass-bright conference room that smells faintly of espresso and dry erase ink, sun crawling up the skyline. And Jenna slid a stack of paper toward me like a dealer who knows you already chose the card. We handle their flight scheduling and crew management end-to-end, renewal in August. Optional expansion clause they've asked about twice, and 3 competitors who would throw roses in our path if we rebalanced capacity. I tapped the page with one finger, not a flourish. Just a point. Move our extras off Pacific Beacon right now. No fast tracks. No, we'll squeeze you in. Deliver exactly what the contract states, nothing more. and start exploratory calls with those 3 competitors this afternoon. You're sure? She said, not doubting, just calibrating. It's not vengeance, I told her, it's alignment. Respect isn't a courtesy discount, it's a cost center. If they couldn't honor a paid seat in public, I won't gift them margins in private. Here's the twist I didn't plan. The woman across the aisle wasn't just somebody's grandmother with perfect posture. 2 days later, we got a handwritten note at reception addressed to me. Fountain pen tidy, thanking me for not caving, signed Elaine Larkin, retired federal judge, with a postscript that said, people test you most when it's convenient for them. I smiled at that, tucked the card in my notebook, then watched the first ripples hit the beach. 3 days in, a regional ops manager from Pacific Beacon called fast and polite, voice high at the edges. Our scheduling queue is lagging. Tickets aren't being bumped. We're seeing delays in crew swaps. Can your team escalate? Jenna, sitting across from me, put the call on speaker and said smoothly, we'll meet our obligations as specified. The woman hesitated, like she'd walked into a glass door she didn't see, thanked us anyway, and hung up. By the end of the week, the calls weren't regional, they were corporate. We've noticed a change in service level. We're prepared to discuss an extension and adjustments. I sipped my coffee and said the line I'd polished the night of that flight. We'll fulfill our agreement. After that, we're prioritizing other partners. They sent the big letter next, embossed, perfumed with contrition, an apology from their CEO for any misunderstanding on Flight 274, DFW, SAN, a hope to rebuild a valued relationship. The kind of wording that says the lawyers touched it and the PR team softened it. And I'll be honest, I set it on my desk. Looked at it like you look at an old photograph of a person who knew better 5 minutes too late. What no letter captures is the mess you create when you treat people like movable pieces. One Saturday, I was grabbing a coffee near the harbor when a Pacific Beacon captain in uniform, maybe mid-40s, stopped like he knew me from somewhere, then tried to keep walking. Then turned back and said in a low voice, Sir, whatever you did, they're listening now. Not angry, not pleading, just tired. I thanked him, wished him safe flights, kept moving, and filed that sentence under the ones you don't forget. The formal meeting came over video a week later, a pane of faces in good lighting with framed diplomas in the background. Their operations director did the talking, the CEO did the nodding, someone from legal took notes like they were writing a grocery list. They wanted timelines, concessions, sweeteners. They wanted to know what had changed and why. And I told them without theater. Nothing changed except our decision to invest where respect is reciprocal. Someone finally asked if this was about a seating incident. I said it wasn't about a seat. It was about what the seat told me about the way they weigh people when nobody's watching. Silence. Not the dramatic kind, the accounting kind, where you can almost hear someone moving numbers around in their head. We wrapped, professionally, and I went back to building the future I actually care about. Competitors signed on faster than we'd projected. My engineers were buzzing in that caffeinated way they get when a new integration is clean, and Pacific Beacon, well, they kept flying. But with little stutters that make frequent flyers look up and wonder if the rhythm is off, because it was. Actions don't always make headlines. Sometimes they make tiny echoes that don't stop for months. So here's the part you'll want me to tie up with a bow. Did I forgive them when the letter came? Did I walk it back when an apology finally found the mailbox? Did I decide that any misunderstanding was close enough? I gave myself the answer at 35,000 feet on a different airline. Sliding into 1A again because I like habits that keep my blood pressure low, a new attendant leaning in with a real smile. Welcome aboard, Mr. Hale. Enjoy your flight. And there was nothing in her voice but courtesy earned evenly. No performance, no wait. Out the window, the runway lights receded. The city turned to a lit map. And I let the old letter sit in a drawer where it belongs. But endings are messy if you're honest. A week from now, Pacific Beacon could call with more than a letter. They could show up with accountability that isn't word polished, with a policy change blasted to every crew briefing that says tickets matter more than pecking orders. They could name what they did and fix it where it broke. Would I take the meeting? Would you? Justice and business aren't the same sport, but they share a scoreboard. If you were in my seat, literally, would you have moved so the important guy could feel important? Would you have stood up and risked the delay? Would you have taken the apology weeks later and chalked it up to a bad crew on a bad day? Or would you have done what I did and let the economics teach what the intercom wouldn't? Tell me where you draw the line. Tell me if the price of respect should be paid at the gate or in the boardroom. And tell me whether you think I should ever accept that meeting if it comes. Because the door isn't locked, it's just not automatic.